You see, this totally destroys. If I had anything cleaned up, if I had anything, I had to look for all type of papers. I had to organize and start a tenants' rights union, and I had to go through all this stuff, and it affects my brain and it affects my mental health and my brain injury, but then my physical health and everything suffers, and then just makes everything bad. And like, I know that I'm right. I proved that I'm right several times, that all this is true. I gave options, and I gave you know in good faith several different times that I was trying to act in, not only as a disabled person, within my like, see, I can't even get the words. I don't know. I just wanted to make sure that people understand. Like, it's not just, I don't like, this is not because I'm messy. This is not because I really have a brain injury. I really misplace things. I really forget where I'm going 2 seconds after I go there. It's really a thing, and it's not only a thing, but it's something that the part of my brain it is impacted by. That is the part that takes in information from when anybody's giving it to me, if I'm reading it, if I'm hearing it, whatever, and then processes it, and then not only understands it, but then puts it in a certain order, like, and so it makes it hard for me to cognize things. I know that, or to understand, comprehend information, and that's why it's very easy to be taken advantage of. And I have been abused by people in positions of power all my life. So that's something that is nothing new to me. But it's in feeling, after losing my grandmother, and she was 93, and seeing what people did to her, I just didn't want anybody else to do that to anybody who could not stand up for themselves. Otherwise, I wouldn't even care. I would have just left. I wouldn't even cared about none of this. Whatever. I was homeless for 2 years, and I had 9 surgeries, 7 in that past year. And I just been through a lot of horrific things. So threatening me with eviction or whatever, when they could not do that, when it was illegal, and then using the state and the county and the services that were put in place to help me for my legal disability, to harass and to discriminate against me, to threaten me, to cause damage. It's not only done to me, but I spoke with a lot of people in my building, and they do that all the time. They prey on people who have some type of social, like society defunction, like defunction. I don't even know if that's a word, but dysfunction, or a disability or handicap, or anything, by being honest and upfront or whatever about certain circumstances or whatever, as you should be able to do with a tenant in a landlord situation. You would think that would be somebody, a situation where being honest would be helpful, but when they are using their degrees and their for sociology and for communications against you, and against all of you, to keep a whole group of protected individuals in the same situation, and then they keep turning over these rental units or whatever like it's nothing, and then the housing court allows them to do that. The city of St. Paul, what is this called? The housing inspector allows them to do that. The human, what is this called? DHS, the Department of Human Services, the people who are supposed to be protecting people, who I've filed so many different complaints that have gone so unanswered, and in regards to my my human rights, my civil rights, my constitutional rights being violated, the Fair Housing Act being violated, the right to habitability, in legal, police things for damages that I suffered, being assaulted by somebody who only got in here because the door, which I had already outlined that needed to be fixed, and it was causing a safety issue. Later on, this person was able to get in and then do these things. But then when I told it to the landlord and everything, and I had showed the text messages, so they knew everything. You can't say you don't know when, not only was the caretaker here and seen when the police came and everything in days, and we've been corresponding, but then you can't say plausible deniability. So then you just look at me and say it didn't happen, that they can't do anything, that buying a door that works is too expensive, that they can't stop people from coming in off the street, homeless people, to do drugs or to harm people or to, start fires, to, do drugs or illegal acts like prostitution. And, they can't be responsible for any of that. But it's like certain things are not able to be waived. So if that's true, and then the government's allowing this, then what is the case? That something going to have to give. So that's why I did end up trying to organize from a different point of view. I told them, hey, you're wrong or frauding everybody. You should not be accepting rent from anybody. But not only are you accepting rent from all these people, but all the people that you kicked out and they got that rent help and they paid ahead of time. But the people who didn't know their rights didn't know that, or didn't know that how much funds were being, provided because of these people's deceptive and manipulative and illegal misuse of not only the rental license, not only the, right to realty, be a realtor or whatever in the state, but, there are defrauding federal funds, state funds, city funds, and ordinances and laws and statutes put in place to protect this type of thing from going on. But then all the buildings that they have are like this. And so therefore, all the damage that's being done and impacting the community beyond the people who live in the buildings, like that's a major thing. That's not like something to just ignore. And so that's why I go to the Capitol every day and I sit there and I do a live on my Instagram. I, put everything on my Google Maps profile. I do everything because I show that I did everything. I did everything to try to make them see that, hey, not only is it right here in black and white that you're against the law and that I had the right to tell you this and for you to do these things, but then I had the right to be a human being, and so when people who are men who take the fact that you have been a sexual violence victim, and you have been in a long-term abusive relationship, and that you had suffered a lot of medical and physical losses from people in your life, back to back to back, a lot of traumatic events, and then almost dying of COVID and everything like that, just to have this COVID relief or whatever be thrown in my face. And then when they put eviction notice, they said that I don't meet the requirements anyway. But it's like, who meets the requirements then? Because you know what, I'm lucky to have my life, and it's here for a reason. But everybody matters, everybody counts, and it don't matter, how much money you have or whatever the case. Like, I care about everybody, and that's what it should be. The laws are supposed to be non-biased, and you know what? I'm telling you, we have rights that allow us to, you know, um, enlist other states and other, governments or whatever to link up with us and to organize or to, um, you know, sit in on court dates or do things or whatever. So that way our presence is really known. And outside of the state, you know, it's just like, hey, link up, on the internet or whatever. Everybody who is against this or for this, or wants to actually, cause a, I guess, an increase in value of, not only the human life of all people, but the right to live, to be safe, to know that, like, the trauma that it causes and the abuse. Like, if this was, anybody else. I took a domestic violence class in LA County Jail, and they told me that, what, there's different kinds of abuse: mental abuse, emotional abuse, physical abuse, financial abuse, all these different things, intellectual abuse. Um, and so these things are like all different ways where people can impact your brain and impact your life and impact your, existence. And so these landlords are doing the same thing. And then so is the state and local governments, and so is everybody else. And so the only reason to have an election about anything is, once we realize that we have our own power, we have the power to stand up for what is right, to choose what we want to do, to live how we want to live. But, we are our own leverage. And that's the thing, is like, it's way more us than it is them. And, you know what? Unconditional love, it is the center of everything. So I can have compassion, I can have everything, and, for everyone in every situation. And I understand it. If you're gonna abuse a system because they let you, why would you not? And so that goes for criminals, and that goes for these slumlords, that goes for, doctors, that goes for every system that's put in place, whatever. It oppresses rather than, helps our bodies heal it themselves. All we need is a safe, stable place, so that way we can really get our stuff together. And it's just, time for change.